This podcast is sponsored by One Gutter Guard, the premium gutter guard that delivers the highest performance, quality, and value to your customers. From its different mesh filters to its unibody construction, One Gutter Guard can be the difference maker in your business. Are you interested in becoming part of the exclusive dealer network? Contact them today at onegutterguard.com or just give them a call. Now back to our show.
What's going on, guys? It's Tim with Gutter Growth. I got Jeremy Mitchell here. Jeremy always brings the heat when it comes to sales. What's up, Jeremy? How you doing today?
What's up, Tim? Awesome, man. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Hanging in there.
Just pretty good?
Really good.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, man. So
I'm glad to be here, brother.
Yeah, man, me too. I'm definitely excited. You're going to be at the summit. You got a booth there for Sales Pride, and you're going to be running a breakout too that's going to be educational. So I'm sure nobody wants to miss that.
Yeah, I'm excited to be able to provide some value. I think I'm a huge believer, obviously, in sales. You can keep a business afloat or just bootstrap a business if you just get really good at that alone. So I'm excited to be able to help some people reach new levels. So excited. It'll be my first time being a vendor at a trade show before too. So that'll be cool. New experience for me. You'll have to give me some inside tips on what I need to do, but appreciate it.
For those that don't know you, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, quick background. Been in sales since 2008. Was a military veteran. After I left the service, I went to school to be a chiropractor, and then to follow in the footsteps of my father. And then he passed away, and I got into sales. Recently, I've been doing in-home sales, one call close, home improvement type sales since 2016 for some big companies like Renewal by Andersen, Leaf Filter, a lot of different companies, and they've all followed kind of the same duplicatable system. And last year at Leaf Filter, I was at one point during the year, I was the 7th ranked income earner out of over 2,000 sales reps for that company, and left in September to start my own sales coaching company called Sales Pride, where it basically takes it's kind of like a new twist on it's not just sales training, it's like life coaching for salespeople so that they show up as the best version of themselves and consequently make more sales.
What does that program look like? How does that work?
Well, it depends. I've got some one-on-one coaching and group coaching. So I've got a couple of different clients from Gutter Growth that have started with me, and the group coaching meets 5 days a week from Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. Eastern to 10:30 sometimes. And we basically go over all the systems that made Leaf Filter go from a mom and pop type of business that started out of a garage by Matt Collig to being the largest direct to consumer home improvement company in North America that did almost $2 billion last year. So those systems are duplicatable. So if you can plug and play those systems into your gutter business, you can, expect to have the same kind of results as you continue grow and scale.
No, that's awesome. A lot of times us gutter guys are always thinking about marketing and how to get more leads, but sometimes you got enough leads, you're just not selling enough of them.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you could be bleeding, out. It's like having a bucket with holes in the bottom of it. How many sales are you possibly missing out on? I can survive on a couple of sales here and there and go out and grind and go do it for free by, sheer hard work and determination, door knocking and things like that. But you can throw money at good money at a bad problem. And so let's plug those holes so we can retain the income that could be coming in.
So a little bit, a lot of guys know about Leaf Filter, but what is that story? How did he take it from something backyard to big because of these systems?
Well, it's just about duplication. So if you look at like multi-level marketing as an example, the reason why those companies grow and get to be as big as they are is because they have a simple process that, each one teach one kind of scenario. And so it's pretty simple. I had a boss that said he could take pretty much any geek off the street that has half a personality, which I think I just made the cut of that half personality. Probably a third, but I made up for it with persistence and follow-up. But it's just basically being able to follow a system. Hey, you greet somebody at the door, you do an inspection, you ask some questions, you have a sales pitch that a monkey could pretty much do, or you could hit play on a robot, and then from there the real skill comes in when you get those objections and being able to overcome the objections, being able to try to mitigate the objections. I see some questions here, so we'll get to that here in a little bit. But basically, being able to have a system of how do you deliver the price? How do you prepare them for the price? How do you deliver the price? How do you do price drops so it doesn't sound like you're a used car salesman? And just they have a 12-step closing system that a lot of different companies use, and it's just being able to share that with people in an effective way that they can retain it and implement it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that probably most of us are just winging it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I mean, sometimes you can wing it, and sometimes people have enough experience or natural charisma where you can do that. I see one of the questions is, what do you consider to be a good closing rate? So I'll answer that question just so you can have something to compare yourself to. When I first started at Leaf Filter in 2018, their average closing ratio across the entire company nationwide was 51%. Last year, it was 62%. So they've continually grown. And when we're talking about closing ratio, that's, let's say you had 10 appointments and you could help 9 of them. So you gave a sales pitch to 9. Let's say one of them was just not home. Okay. And then you closed 6 out of those 9 pitches. Well, that's a 66% close ratio or a 60% slugging ratio. So nowadays the standard in that company is, right around 55% slugging percentage. So
what does slugging mean?
Slugging just basically means the amount that you're closing versus how many opportunities you had. And so the crappy thing about that is sometimes you can't help if a customer's not home if they just stood you up, but that just says, hey, I had 10 leads, I brought in 6 deals back. That's a true, simple way of explaining that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if people are getting, 40%, 30%, they might think they're doing pretty good, but when you've got a company with 2,000 sales reps on average closing at 62%.
Not only that, they're doing it at a higher price.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And they have some advantages, they have some systems in place that I'm not necessarily privy to, but when a lead comes in, how quickly do they follow up with that lead? How do they qualify that lead? How do they, talk to them at the call center to where they say, okay, will both you and your spouse be home and all that stuff? You're kind of, they really did set us up for success in that sense for the most part. Now they're, going out there and door knocking and canvassing or having, shops set up in Lowe's or, Ace Hardware or the fairgrounds or whatever for home and garden shows. I see Elizabeth Hubbard. Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate that. Follow-up. Grant, I see that question. I don't follow up. I close so well, I don't need to follow up. As arrogant as that sounds, I'm dead serious. Like that, when you go out to a home and you give it your all and you drop down to the lowest price and they still can't get off the pot and make a decision, like it's just not worth the effort. I'd rather focus my attention on getting better at the close or focus my attention on the next, person I talk to rather than worrying about the other person. That's a real true question. Sorry, Grant.
Hey, listen. Hey, man, thanks for being on. I absolutely agree with you.
Okay.
I love hearing that because I talk to people about that all the time and I don't know how I just appeared out of thin air and I'm going to vanish out of thin air here in a minute, but I really wanted to agree with you on that if you give it your all, and what I tell people all the time about the follow-up is if you're in that estimator zone, I do estimator, salesperson, then solutionist. It's kind of a gradual promotion.
Yeah.
If you're in the estimator zone, you had better be following up because you probably didn't give your all, right?
Right.
And I'm similar to you. I give them so much education, so much price that they're going to call me back or they're not going with anyone.
Right. Right.
Is usually going to be the case there. So I 100% agree.
And that way you're not chasing and stuff like that and coming off as desperate, that's my thing. It's just like, if you can figure out what the pain is, then you can tie it into, them getting the result. It doesn't come down to price. And if you have to follow up, and this is just my opinion, I'll probably get some flack for it. I just don't think you were too afraid of being viewed as being pushy, that you just didn't close hard enough on the first appointment. And there's ways of being able to do that firmly but gently, if that makes sense.
I didn't follow up either, but I did. Like, I had 2 sales guys. I made them do it, but personally, honestly, I wasn't, and I still had about a 64%, and it varied a little bit, but
yeah, that's good. Yeah. I see
But I
somebody.
mean, it's one thing to have a 64%. It's another thing to have a 55% and be in top dollar.
Well,
a lot of these guys are just kind of average price,
right,
and they're still struggling to get over a 30-40% close rate.
Right. That's an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up, because like even my close ratio wasn't the best in the company, but there's a reason why I was the 7th income earner. And it wasn't because I just refused to sell cost jobs or whatever. It was just because I was able to hang in there and sell the big deals that when other people, when their butts started puckering up, they'd start saying, well, I could help you out by dropping the price, but it's just a matter of just being able to stay strong and hold that profit. So when we were selling, it was, I was selling it at full retail after offering discounts and everything. So, we were at, $30, $40, $50 a foot for leaf filter, where people are struggling to get 20.
Max, Google, as far as leads go, Google is definitely higher quality. They just, think about this, Max. When you want something, what do? I guarantee you're probably Googling it. So it's just, when you really want something, you Google. Facebook, it works, but you're going to have a little bit lower close rate on it. It's more of oh yeah, I need to do that. And they're more finicky people, but I definitely believe in it. It's just, I've noticed through multiple companies that, and people that I coach, that the Facebook leads get a lower percentage on the close rate. They are a little bit cheaper though on the lead. But back to sales.
Yeah. I don't know anything about marketing. Can't spend too much on all that crap.
Yeah, and I think Max was saying that. Jeremy, I just wanted to touch base with you on, I don't know if you guys looked at dollars sold, because that's big too. I got guys with a lot of high closing rates, but I'm curious what their dollars sold is on dollars estimated, right? Would you touch base on that a little bit?
Yeah, so one of my favorite metrics to track is net volume per issue. So that's net NVPI or NVPIL or something. It basically says that, okay, if you got 10 leads and let's say I brought $50,000 back in business, okay, that means that out of those 10 leads, whether you sold one for 50K or all 10 for 50K, you brought back an average of $5,000 per lead issued. So if I spent $1,000 on marketing, to Max's question here, man, I spend $1,000. I can't afford to spend $1,000 a week. Well, if you got somebody bringing you back 50 grand a week, could you afford to spend $1,000?
And that's what I try to teach people. It's just, what it is they're thinking about the money out the door, but they're not breaking it down to how much that leads costing them and how much that job's costing them. Or what you're talking about, I call it the average ticket price, and they don't know what that is.
So that's a little bit different though. So average ticket price, let's just use the same metrics.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
So if we made 6 sales, $50,000 divided by 6 would be $8,333. That number is different than $5,000.
You're breaking it down per lead.
Per lead,
yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so the thing is, to Grant's point, if I got a guy that's closing at 80%, but he's bringing back $400 jobs, who gives a crap? Like
Right.
It
that's
don't
not
matter what the close rate is.
right. And if I've got a 10% close rate, but I'm bringing back, let's say $25,000. Okay. That's a good one too, right? That's $2,500 net volume per issue. By the way, that's about
Mhm.
average at Leaf Filter.
Yeah.
Just FYI for everybody. Okay.
What is
Considering
average
Is
there?
it
about
is it
2,500.
2,500?
Yeah,
Yeah.
about. I was at 3,400, for the year before I left last year, just to give you an idea. So, that but again, our prices were quite high. So but here's the thing, like I tracked as a sales rep, I guess you guys are talking about business owners, but like I tracked my commissions earned
Yes.
per lead.
Yes.
Right. And so like when you look at mine, I was like $589 was my average commission. And that's what made me seventh, income earner in the company because I only
So
ran
every time
430 leads.
you were doing an estimate, you knew that you were making that much money.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes the way they priced, the way they broke out the commission structure. If I had to drop my pants and go down to cost just to sell a skinny deal to keep the installers busy, to put more marketing back into the budget, rather than just taking a zero, they'd rather me sell a job at $1,000 or whatever. Let's just say, because that's $1,000 coming in that could be applied. It's taken away from my competition, allowing me to
Right.
grab more market share as well. Plus, it shows on the numbers. Oh, the company did $2 billion in revenue.
So that's
Yeah.
interesting. So how would you approach lowering the price? Like when did you decide this is a job that I will lower the price on?
Well, so they had preset like price drops, and they had a sequence on how they would do their price drops. They would offer your standard military senior discounts, stuff like that, and then they had an initial visit incentive, like order today and you'll get 15% off. Of course, you could say it like that, and it just kind of can come off as being like high pressure. So again, I think part of the reason why I had such a high success rate was because the way my tonality, the way I delivered it, didn't sound that high pressure, right? And my ADD brain just kicked in a little bit. So
a lot of guys don't know what tonality is.
Yeah.
Can you kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, sure.
Well, Jeremy, finish
Yeah.
what he was asking. I'll help you with the ADH
Thank you.
brain because I
Thank
have
you,
it
thank you.
often. But
Okay.
this is a priority of mine to educate about. So he wanted to have you let people know when to lower the price.
Yeah,
When you knew it was okay.
Well, okay. I mean, that's a can of worms there to open to ask that question. Seriously. So like,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example, the way I did it was slightly different than the company, model. I would, I'd give the price, and then I would say, okay, and this is your price. It's good for a year. You get this 10% off for senior discounts, military discounts, and you've earned those discounts, so you'll never lose those. You served our country, you're a senior citizen, you're never going to lose those discounts. So as long as you call me back in the next week or month or year, those discounts, you'll never lose those discounts, but I can't guarantee that your price is going to be the price that you see today. So like, let's just use an example today. Let's just say I had an $8,000, price I'm showing them. This is your price that's good for a year. If I take off 10% off of that, so I'll go through it like I normally would. 10%'s $800, okay, which brings you down to $7,200, and then another 10% off for senior citizens gets you down to $6,480. So as long as you call me back in the next week, month, or year, as long as there's nothing that's outside of our control that causes our prices to go up, that's the price it'll really be over the next year. But like, remember when COVID happened and lumber prices were going up and up and up, and there was things outside of our control, you just couldn't help it. Same thing with like eggs, a couple year or so, prices just kept going up. We guarantee that your price will be no higher than $8,000 as long as you call us back in the next year. But if nothing changes, this is what your price would be. I just can't put this in writing for a year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what the company does is we say, hey, look, if you really did want to move forward with this, like you're telling me we do, they give you a small discount. It's not a huge discount. It's only 15%. So on a job of this size, it's only $972. So it's not a ton of money, but that basically brings you down to just 5508. And that's pretty much everything I have to go over with you. How would you like to proceed? And
I
then,
noticed you said it's not a ton of money.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Seems like a lot of money.
It did. So did you feel like it was a lot of money? 972.
Yeah.
Good.
I love that. I love
You guys played into my frame, because here's the thing. If I said, and I'm going to show you how to, because this is how the company trains you to do it, and I hated it, and I feel like this is one thing that made me different than everybody else. Human behavior, human psychology is like, I learned this from Chris Voss, FBI hostage negotiator. And he talks about how it's human behavior. It's natural that you want to correct someone. So
Yeah.
if I say, and I'm going to show you how to save a lot of money, it's $972.
That's not a lot of money.
Yeah, that's not a lot of money. But if I say, hey, it's not a lot of money, it's just a little bit of money, it's only 15%. So on a job like this, if I downplay it, you're going to be like, oh my God, I don't know about you, but $972, that's almost $1,000.
Yeah.
Right. So I did that a little bit differently as well. And so, and at that point, I'm pretty much at retail. Okay. And I've been so transparent. I just tell people, hey, this is what it is. That's pretty much everything I have to go over with you. How would you like to proceed? Very soft close. And then you would be surprised if you did a good job in the beginning of covering all the potential objections that could occur now. If you handled all of those objections ahead of time, they'll just say, yeah, sounds good. Let's get started.
Max, he says, I have a lot of contractors I call over 50, and all the guys have cheap subs that I can't undercut. That's why I'm leaning towards Google and homeowners. Yeah, no, I agree. I was about 80% retail and maybe 20% contractors, but the contractors that I had, they paid the higher price. So I definitely didn't cater to them, because that's kind of what you're going to get. You got to kind of, and I think guys initially getting into business, there's nothing wrong with hooking up with a bunch of contractors so you can get a good base of work. But you're definitely going to get the better sale out of the customer.
And the thing is, like, I know a guy that's done almost $1 million, but he's paid himself like maybe 55 grand, and he's exhausted and burned out and wants to sell the business. He's running his guts out, but he's doing it at, $5-6 a foot or whatever. It's like, you gotta be able to sell it for a higher price so that you can, like, keep your sanity, make the profit.
Could you talk to him just briefly about that specifically? A lot of us guys on the higher end of the food chain, we've learned, but we need someone like you to explain it. So would you explain it to them, just the old trick? Like, do you want 10 jobs at 1,000, or do you want 5 at 2,000, or do you want 1 at 10,000?
That's a tough thing. I mean, I don't know. My thing is, it's all about efficiency. Like, if I'm going to if I'm going to work myself, 40 hours a week, do I want to work 40 hours a week to make $2,000, or do I want to do it to make $10,000? I mean, you're going to still do the same 40 hours a week. I think when it boils down to it is, people are afraid of charging the high prices because they're afraid of losing the sale. Well, first of all, you can't lose something you never had in the beginning to begin with. Right. And the thing is like, just try it, see what happens. Like, who knows? Worst case scenario, you could always start high. And then if you had to go back to Tim's question that I feel like I kind of dodged a little bit. I didn't mean to. Seriously, if you hold my feet to the fire, I'll answer it. But it's like, worst case scenario, like, for example, my coaching packages, I started at $3,000, I started at $1,000 a month when I first started, and I got to the point to where I was like, Okay, 3K, let me get my first, 3 people in the door. And I was like, okay, well, let's try 4K. And then, kept going, and then 5K, and then 7,500 and 10K. And it's like, now I got people that are like, literally, I have not missed a sale yet for the coaching program. Every single person, I just signed somebody up today. Every single person that I've talked to, I've, sold because and it didn't matter what the price was. The price was, 10K or whatever. It is what it is. So had I been scared to ask for 10K and I was still at 3K, I'd only be making this much money. But now I've made triple as much money because I'm asking for it. And the thing is, like, as long as you can build the value in it, then it'll make sense to them, and they'll buy. And that's where having like an actual like coach that'll coach you on how to build value, because it's such a cliche that everybody throws it out, but they don't teach you how to do it.
Right. Right.
You don't ask, you don't get.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
I think a lot of people, when I talk to people about how to sell, right, the problem is a lot of people sell the way that they buy. Would you speak on that?
Oh yeah, 100%.
A lot of people are super, super, super cheap and very frugal and all this and that. They would never even put gutters on their home, other than the fact that they own the gutter business.
Yep.
And they probably still didn't do anything nice. They just did 5-inch or something on there.
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you said that. So I get people that'll give me objections at the end, right? And they'll give me an objection like, well, I need to talk it over with my wife, or, oh, I need to shop around, or whatever. And I've literally like told people, like, let me ask you this. When you buy something from a salesperson, or actually when they're the salesperson, they're coming to me for coaching and they're giving me that objection, I'll say to them, do you get that objection a lot? And they'll say, yeah. I was like, and how do you overcome it? Oh, I don't. I was like, okay, how much longer do you want to keep getting that objection for? And they go, well, or how much longer do you want to struggle with that objection? And they're like, well, I don't want to struggle with it at all. I was like, well, first of all, stop giving the objection. Because if you're giving the objection when you're the buyer, then you're attracting that into it. You're going to attract the buyers to you the way that you buy. I tell them this straight up. And then I'll tell them an analogy. So basically that's a reframe, number one. Okay. Number 2 step is I give an analogy. When I buy a vehicle, I've got a $85,000 Acura MDX Type S in my garage. Before that, I had a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Before that, I had a F-150. Every single car I've bought, I've never haggled with the salesperson or the dealer. Never. And the reason for that is this, is because as a salesperson, I want to earn the highest commission I can possibly get. And if a customer is haggling with me, I have to reduce my commission in order to make the sale. I want to make the highest commission I can get. I want that salesperson to earn the highest commission he can get as well. So I buy the way that I want my customers to show up, because I feel like the law of attraction and law of reciprocity or whatever will come back to me. So I tell these guys, I tell them the reframe, and then I say, so if you give that objection when you buy, then you're a hypocrite if you try to overcome somebody giving you that same objection, and you won't know how to overcome it because you're in the position where it's justifiable in your mind because you do it as well. So your brain will never allow you to like go against your own identity. Does that make sense?
Because you identify with doing that. So when they do it to you, it's like you say, well, I do that, so they do that.
It's the same thing with like, if you hate salespeople. Oh, I hate salespeople. They're so slimy. Well, when you're in a sales situation, guess what, buddy? You're a salesman. You can't hate yourself. Right. Yeah. So you have to change your mindset on this. And when, like Tony Robbins says that 80% of success is psychology, 20% is mechanics. I haven't hardly given you like any actually like actionable steps. It's all like mindset stuff. If you get rid of these little mind viruses and these blockages, it's like clearing the path on a road of landmines and of ambush points. It's like you just got to clear
100%.
that path. Yeah.
100%. Hey, real quick, you guys can see Sales Pride with Jeremy at the summit. Jeremy, would you tell us just briefly about what you're going to have to offer there? And I know you're still probably trying to build that, but you're going to be there representing Sales Pride, correct?
Yeah. I was actually looking for you guys to see what you would want me to talk on.
Yeah. We're going to talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
This is what we're talking about. You know what? We don't need the summit anymore. We're just gonna do
No, it'll be even better. It's like watching the game on TV versus being in the stadium. I'm excited for it, and I'm looking forward to it. I think what would probably be good is basically trying to like how to prevent objections from happening would probably be something that would be good. Maybe talking about tonality and really like having a closing sequence. I think it just kind of depends on how much.
Honestly, I like the tonality thing, because I think that's what people are missing.
Yeah. And you were starting to ask me a question about that.
Yeah. So the other day, I was telling someone about tonality, and honestly, I learned that from you. I do it naturally. I guess it's just something naturally that I have. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know what it was. And so I was telling someone about the word tonality, and they're like, that's not a word. And I go, it is a word. They go, no, tone's a word. I'm like, no, tone is one sound. Tonality is multiple sounds.
Yes.
And so, most people don't even know what tonality is. So can you kind of explain that and then break it down a little bit?
Yeah. Let me just give you just off the top of my head example. Okay. Most people don't even know what tonality is. And then most people don't even know what tonality is. Did you notice the difference in how I said the same exact words, but I changed the inflection at the end, or how I changed the inflection at the end?
Yeah, you sound more sure of yourself on the second one.
Exactly. So when you're trying to speak with confidence and conviction and certainty, you end your sentences with a downward inflection. So the tone of your voice, the pitch of your voice can gradually go down. If I talk like this and I'm talking like this, and then my voice kind of trails upward, then what it ends up sounding like is I'm not quite sure of what I'm saying.
It's kind of like a question, right?
Yeah,
you're asking the customer if that's okay.
Can you help me out a little bit? Can you tell me what I need to say to help you buy from me, please? So that's what tonality is. And so
there's a time to use both tones, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's just one of many things. I could say to somebody at the end of closing, let's just say, and let's say they got to the point where you said, hey, that's a lot of money, Jeremy. I just can't afford it. And you're wanting me to drop the price. And I say to you, I'm going to say the same exact sentence, but I'm going to say it with like, I want you to pay attention to the pitch of my voice, the volume of my voice, and the pacing. Okay. So and my body language and my facial expressions. All right. So I'll say it a bad way first, and then I'll say it a better way so you can compare it. Well, if you don't find a way to come up with the money, how are you going to be able to solve this problem? Okay. How do you interpret my tonality? That's not a word.
Yeah. I don't know how to take that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, what would you say, Grant? What would you say?
What do you think, Grant?
Yeah. I mean, you weren't really confident right there. I mean,
I would say I was confident, but
you were confident, but you were still questioning.
Well, okay, but I'm still going to question. So let's compare it to the first one. I'm going to say
maybe it put me on defense a little bit.
Yeah, good. See, you naturally felt that. It was a challenging tone, and I was kind of flippant with how I said it. And I was like, well, what are you going to do? If you can't afford this one, how are you going to be able to do that? Okay, so now let me say it instead of with a challenging tone. Let me soften my tone a little bit and be a little bit more concerned for you. So like, I understand if you can't afford this now, like, what are you going to do when the gutters overflow and the wood is rotted and stuff like that? Like, how are you going to be able to afford to fix that?
Now you sound concerning.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a softer way of delivering the same thing. So is tonality a real thing? I just said basically the same exact thing. Like if I
Right.
had the sentence in front of me, I could read it a completely different way. Just like the upticks and the downticks, I can also, here's another thing. I can say this. Well, that's pretty much everything I have to go over. How would you like to proceed? Okay. That was a closing question that I used earlier when I was talking about the price discounts. But if I say it like this, well, that's pretty much everything I have to go over with you. How would you like to proceed?
Yeah, it just makes you want to say, I want to go with it.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
don't
And
know
so,
what.
so like January just said something, people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And so you can imply that you care about them by the way that you deliver it. So, for example, January looks like a pretty girl. If I said, "Hey, January, I love you," right? And then if I said, "Hey, January, I love you," like you can say the same exact words, but it doesn't
It has different
convey.
meanings.
Yeah, exactly. All right. All right. Sorry, January. I'm taken. I got a girlfriend. Sorry. Let's see how quick I can lose that sponsorship.
No, that was good. It's all good. January said, thanks. You made my day.
Awesome. All right. Let's see what Justin said.
So the thing, Justin, is I would say 90% of the gutter industry is underpriced, and that's why they can't afford salesmen. That's why they can't afford office people. That's why they can't afford advertisement.
Mhm.
So, $1,200 sounds like a lot because we're thinking with our pockets, but the larger a company gets, the more overhead they have, and the larger a company is, the more they have to charge. And so the reason why people are going with Leaf Filter is because they know that they're a large company and they feel really confident and comfortable with going with that company. And so it's perceived value. People perceive more value with a company that they know is going to be around, that they feel comfortable with, that they see advertisement everywhere all the time. It becomes ingrained in their subconscious mind. And for that company to make it, if they started charging $600, they'd go out of business because they couldn't afford the salespeople, they couldn't afford the marketing. And it's just when you do big business, you have to charge more. And that's why I always say that you need to have like your margins dialed in and you need to check them all the time because, what are you actually making? So if you're just basing your price off what the next guy is, but you have more overhead because you got more trucks on the road, you got an office person and you're performing at a higher level, you're not going to be able to afford that and you'll never get there. And then so it definitely does justice to charge more because you want to have a price that where you'll be able to afford all that stuff and to become a really good company. So most people are just undervaluing their price.
Give an example of that too. I mean, what we do over here in Austin, we're barely in our third year. We did $1.5 million in our first year. We did $2.5 million in our second year, and we're easily going to do $3 million here in our third year. Jeremy, I don't know if you know, I'm a director of operations for the brothers that just do gutters here in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And I've been a part of 2 different locations. Let's just say around $15 million in 5 years of gutters, right?
Okay.
So definitely decent numbers. But we have a $1,000 minimum over here in Austin.
Right.
We're not scared of that, right? And of course, when I brought that, and it didn't just start that way, right? But I'm letting everybody watching know we're just humans with an awesome brand and a whole bunch of systems and a vision and a direction and overhead. And we're not your $300 minimum gutter company, but Justin, and I'm not saying you said you were, but Justin, you don't have to be. Bobby, you don't have to be. Max, you don't have to be. There's nothing different other than we have our stuff put together and we're confident that we know that customers still keep paying $1,000 for a minimum. Leaf Filter has that figured out as well too.
So it's interesting that guy. If I was just doing the math here, if I heard him right, he said he sold 6 feet of gutters.
I'll put it back up.
One downspout, and I'm assuming some filter on there. Just so you know, like Leaf Filter's like cash retail price would have been only $1,000 and $1,070. So Justin, you should feel guilty for charging that lady $1,200.
Jesus, Justin.
Um,
But to
so-
the point, a lot of people, and let's not spend much time on this. A lot of people use Leaf Filter as
a scapegoat.
a scapegoat, right? They charge way too much. They're
Yeah,
ripping people off. And what we can say as gutter professionals, us three on this,
Right,
is
right.
the backstory to every conversation. Is there companies out there that are overcharging and sending out crappy installers and ripping customers off? Yes.
Absolutely.
Even small companies that have only done 170,000 a year have no clue what they're doing at ripping people off.
Yeah,
So
or taking their
there's gotta
money
be
and not showing up and doing the work.
yeah, taillight special, all of that. So
Yeah. But and I want to touch on that point though real quick as
Yeah.
far as the price goes, because like ultimately this, guys, like even as expensive as Leaf Filter is, and you might view it as being overpriced, Tim said something very eloquent, and I actually use this point, is you're spending money with your own pockets. So when I talk to my guys, when I coach them on this subject, like most of these people that you're going to visit are probably older than you. They probably have worked longer than you. They've probably saved up enough money and are in a position where they're retired so they can retire and probably have more money than you. So why are you taking your broke mindset and spending their paycheck, their retirement with your broke mindset?
absolutely.
So it's like when it boils down to it, like I had to kind of drink the Kool-Aid. There was a point where I was struggling with my career at Leaf Filter, and once I got over this mindset, my growth was kind of like this. It went like a freaking hockey stick and went straight up in the air. And it was like, look, are there other products that are similar to Leaf Filter that could be had for way less than Leaf Filter? Let's say a third of the price. Absolutely. Like even if I sold it at cost at $12 a foot, I wasn't making anything. I could have sold my own gutter screen for $12 a foot and made $1,000 on it profit or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those companies, are they guaranteed to be in business like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Like 80%, you read the statistics from the SBA, right? That 80% of businesses are going to go out of business within 5 or 10 years. And just because you made it past 10 years doesn't guarantee your success that you'll stay in business. Enron,
Right.
ever heard of them? Okay. So like, are you going to be able to stay in business to honor that warranty? Are you going to stand behind that warranty? So like nobody's perfect, but we're just out, when it boils down to it, are there cheaper options initially in the short term that seem like a better deal on the surface? Yes, absolutely. But in the long run, like if you don't do anything at all, it's going to cost a hell of a lot more than it's going to cost to put on your gutter protection. Okay. If you don't do anything at all, somebody falls off a ladder and has an accident, that's going to cost a hell of a lot more. Right. So you have to put it in perspective of it's cheaper to not do it than it is to actually do it. And once I drank that Kool-Aid, man, my income went like this.
Yes, 100%. I think
Once your mentality changed.
yeah, what the mentality changes, absolutely.
Yep, exactly. 80%
I think there's
success.
too many people are thrilled with the McDonald's cheeseburger, and I like to drop $120 on a steak. And I don't even care about the sides.
Right.
So when I buy, that's how I sell too.
Right.
Too many people are too cheap though. People are like, and too many business owners are very cheap. They don't take care of their employees. They're looking for that first used vehicle. They're like, let me do an open trailer instead of an enclosed trailer or a box truck. I'm not going to wrap it. I don't need to. I'll do all the sales myself as the owner. You're going to be stuck in that mindset forever.
I want to talk.
I just want to say real quick. I meant to say this in the beginning, but if you drop the word "grow" in the comments, we'll give you 10% off on the summit tickets.
Woo!
Hey, there we go.
Summit tickets. Let's go ahead and drop the word "grow," and we'll contact you.
So
yeah.
So one thing I was going to say is, I heard this. My mentor talked about this, and I just heard it this morning. So it's a reminder here. Confidence is the ability to look at yourself in the mirror and be able to say to yourself that I trust you. And so if you're always like trying to do things the cheapest way because you're scared that you're not going to be able to afford it, or you're not going to be able to make enough money, like, what does that say about you and your trust and your ability of yourself? Like, I want to let that kind of hang there for a minute. So, like, for example, if you say you value your health, but you're too cheap to go buy like organic fruits and vegetables,
Do
or
you really value your health?
grass fed steak or whatever. And like Bird said, know your worth. Like, here's the
Yeah.
thing: if you're always looking for the cheapest thing, then that's what you're subconsciously telling yourself, is that you're only worth X amount. And so you will never out earn what your self-worth is. And the only
I
way
love that.
you're going to out earn or increase your self-worth is by investing into yourself. And like following through on what you said you're going to do. So that way you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, I trust you. I've seen you. You said you were going to go to the gym every day. You said you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. You've been doing it every single day. I trust you. You said you're going to stick to this diet. Right. And so when the best way to build confidence is to follow through on what you said you're going to do. And the fastest way to ruin your confidence is to go back on what you said you're going to do.
Because if you don't do what you said you're going to do, subconsciously, it's going to pick up to where you start losing confidence.
Yeah. And why invest in yourself if you're not going to follow through?
Hey, guys, invest in yourself and get your butt over to the summit October 9th, 10th, and 11th. Spend some time with Jeremy and, see what he has to offer. There's going to be a lot of people there. And, like, Jeremy, I got one last question for you here, at least for me.
Okay.
What do you think is important? And you haven't got to meet me yet. I'm a pretty direct guy, and I like to hit home to certain people that need stuff kind of really spelled out for them. So without the pitch of Sales Pride, what do you think is the most valuable part of going to a convention, period? Not just ours, but just being around other like-minded people, meaning there's people in the crowd that are very unsure of themselves and where their business is going. And then there's kind of people in the crowd and on the stage that are going, you just got to have this mindset. What's the sweet spot there? What should people be looking for?
Man, all I can tell you, I'm not going to sell you on Sales Pride. Like that has nothing to, that is the least of my concerns. So like, I'll just tell you a story. When I went to my first Tony Robbins event in 2018, I was 365 pounds. And the only reason why, like the real reason why I wanted to go is because I was like, Tony's getting a little bit older. I've always wanted to see him live in person. Hey, he's going to be here in Chicago. That's not too far. I can afford it. I'm going to go.
Yep.
I had no intention. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. The first night we got there, I was walking on hot coals and across.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah. Hell yeah. I've done it multiple times, but it's like, you don't know what you don't know. And so when you go to these events, you're totally immersed. You're cutting off all the other distractions, turn your phone off, be 100% fully invested and immersed in this environment. And like I use the analogy of going to a basketball game, you can watch it on TV, you can listen to a podcast or whatever. There's nothing like being in the arena. Okay.
I agree.
And so when you go to these events, there's three pillars of mastery Tony talks about. And I think I've mentioned this on some of the podcasts we've done. So I'll go over it very briefly. Number one is find somebody that you can model that has had the results that you want to have. So you're going to hear a bunch of different speakers, and maybe none of them maybe all of them suck. Like maybe I suck, maybe Tim sucks, whatever, but there will be one person that if you can pick up on one golden nugget there, that'll make you, tens of thousands of dollars, then the whole entire event was worth going to. All right. You find one person that you can model, that you can attach to, and find one golden nugget it'll make worthwhile. Pillar number two of trying to master any skill is being totally immersed in them. So, you're in this environment, you're learning from all these different speakers. All right. And then pillar number three is spaced repetition. You can only go to an event once, but then you can find that one person, that golden nugget, and go subscribe to them and go follow them and work with them. And, so let's say there's a CPA there that, drops some huge value that's going to save you $50,000 on your taxes next year, and you paid $5,000 for a ticket or a booth or whatever, right? That investment, made up for it, not just in that first year, but from every year past that point. So like going to these events, like all you need is you just need to add one golden nugget or one tool to your tool belt. If you're a contractor, I'm sure you appreciate that. Like, hey, I bought an aluminum brake. Now I can use this and it'll make me all this money. That's how these events are.
I've never been to an event that hasn't made me money. I've been to some events that are better than other events,
right.
but I've never been to an event that hasn't made me money.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't know who you're going to bump into. You don't know if it could be your next business partner. It could be, like it's such a small investment. Just like,
I think that's huge. I want to expound on that really quick.
Thank you.
You never know. You never, I'm going to save you.
Yeah, please.
You never know who you're going to meet. Right now, the industry is changing, the gutter industry. And Tony Cobb said the other evening, and it's very true, it's almost 28 years I've been in the industry, is the gutter guys usually are about to fight each other, and maybe not even necessarily physically, but mentally, and they're all about competition and competitors and price and this and that. When you go to one of these events, and this is kind of hitting on, you never know who your next business partner is going to be.
Yep.
What if you did come to this event, and your name's Scott, for example, and Scott comes to this event, and he's not doing well financially, and he comes and he gets a couple nuggets. He gets Jeremy's phone number. He gets Grant's phone number. He gets Tina Hart's phone number. He meets Kip Keppel. He meets the owner of Trip Jobs. He meets Scott Whaley over at Spectra, and now he's got a better. Now, all of a sudden, he's got all these resources. They're not going to charge. They're probably going to take a phone call or two. You have all these extra opportunities after the fact, even if you don't come and purchase anything that anyone has for sale, which you should, because we have all of the best in the industry there, offering you an opportunity to be involved in the service that they have, whether it's a material or a sales pride or gutter growth or secret weapons, whatever it may be. Just come and share some information, get some phone numbers, exchange phone numbers, shake hands. That way, when you call me and you're like, hey, Grant, I met you over at, I just had one or two more questions for you. I'm going to answer them. Use that to the best of your ability.
I'm so confident in Jeremy's sales training abilities that I think Jeremy's going to pay for your ticket.
Seriously.
Yeah,
like
seriously.
I have no doubt in that. I have clients that can talk about that. There's three things that you said I want to touch on. First of all, when it comes to competition, the funny thing is I'm trying to get everybody to, instead of racing to the bottom, I'm trying to help you guys increase your competition by trying to charge more. Because if everybody learns these skills of how to sell better at a higher profit margin, everybody's going to win. So instead of racing to the bottom, it's like a tide that lifts all boats, right? Number one. Number two, 6 degrees of separation. Like, you don't know who I know. I mean, like, Tony Robbins is one of my clients. Like, what if you could, what if there's you don't know how many degrees of separation there is to somebody that you really need to get in contact with. So number three is the one thing I learned from Tony is if you go into anything, like, go into it with the heart of service. When people are going to these events, if you're going into it with like, what can I get out of this? Yeah, maybe you'll get something out of it, and more power to you. But what if you went with an intention of, how can I serve at the highest level? Who can I help? Like, what if you went into it with that kind of mindset?
I mean, that's how me and Grant built our reputations. We didn't do it by
Correct.
What can I get? What can I get? Like, we just gave.
Like, when I show up on these podcasts, like, of course, I'm hoping that somebody will reach out to me. But if they don't, dude, I'm doing it to try to serve and help you guys. Like, and so far, a couple of people have reached out to me and have, made more money on it than I was expecting to do. So I'm grateful for that, and I appreciate it, you guys.
Well, keep on coming back.
I was going to say, I even offered to give you guys a kickback, and you wouldn't take it. So it's like, but I'm doing this to try to serve. You know,
Yep.
if you go into it with what can I get out of this, you're only going to get exponential results. But if you go into it with like, I'll just give you an example. When I was at Date with Destiny, like these events at this Tony Robbins event, I was there from 7 a.m. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I wanted to quit. I wanted to go home. I wanted to sleep. Like I was like sitting on the side, literally on the floor, like trying to stay awake.
It does
after
some
being up all
intense
day.
events, huh?
Seriously intense events. And I got to the point to where I was like, you know what? I'm sitting here suffering. I'm choosing to suffering because I'm thinking about it in terms of loss less than never. You know, I'm losing sleep. I'm not going to get enough sleep. I'm never going to whatever. And then I changed my thought from a position of suffering. And I said, okay, instead of focusing, the only way you can suffer is if you focus on yourself and what you're not
Correct.
getting. So if you focus on others and how to serve others. So I was like, okay, how can I serve others? I started getting, handing people like water and stuff like that. I started refilling water jugs. I just started getting up. If I'm not going to listen, I might as well go serve other people. And it like gave me a second wind. And just reminds me of the quote from Zig Ziglar. You can have everything that you want in your life if you just help enough other people get what they want out of their life.
I love
I
that.
love Zig Ziglar.
I 100% agree. Tim hit the nail on the head. That's exactly. I mean, I don't know how long the internet's been out. I haven't been paying attention, but the minute they had these gutter installer forums, I found them and I just answered questions. And even if you were doing something kind of half-assed, I didn't need to insult you publicly and say, hey, that's half-assed. Didn't take a genius to say that. But what it did take a genius and someone with a servant's heart was to say, I can appreciate what you're trying to do there. Reach out to me if you'd like some support to take that to the next level. And that's what we have for you guys at the summit. Hey, Jeremy.
But
we
even
really
aside
appreciate
from
you
the
coming on again.
summit, say if you join like a group, like a networking group that's local, you're trying to build your network local. The way to do it isn't just ask.
Mhm.
It's basically serving. So if you help others get business, they're going to return it. So it's more of like, what can you do for them people that are in that network? And that's how you're going to really succeed in the network, because people like to help who helps them.
Right.
I want to end this on one example, and I want to shout out my buddy Ryan Yaron, who's out of RJ Exteriors. He's out of Florida. He came to GutterCon. He wasn't initially going to come. He showed up, and he immediately, within a couple months after, someone reached out to me and said, hey, I'm in this certain area of town, and I just need some support. And I wasn't able to support him. I called Ryan, and I said, hey, this is the reason you came to network. And he was able to charge the guy. He made some great money. He had some team building that happened around his guys, right? Because he's like, hey, we got to tighten up. We got another company coming on. Hey, let's make sure we got our SOPs in order. And since then, they've been chopping a little bit harder. But that's how the networking works. Put yourself in a position. Michael Wood says it right there, that givers gain. Hey, Jeremy, it was fabulous to have you on, brother. We appreciate it. I really look forward to meeting you in person. Where are you at currently?
I live in Oklahoma City.
Oh, man, where at? What, south?
Piedmont, northwest side of Oklahoma City.
I'll probably see you before the summit. I'm in Oklahoma fairly often.
I worked at
really
Hailstorm there about 13 years ago, Oklahoma
Got a
City.
really good friend that lives in Earlsboro, Shawnee.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. That's funny. My buddy sold a property out there. Yeah. That hailstorm was a good one. I remember that one.
Yeah. There's definitely been some good work out there.
I did a couple apartment complexes there.
Whew, nice. Awesome.
Yep.
Well, guys, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys. I'm really looking forward to I've done a couple of little small speaking gigs, so I'm really looking forward to being able to speak and serve you guys, and we'll help everybody grow. That's what it's about.
I think you're going to bring the house down. Hope you have a great evening. Hey, everybody that was participating in the comments, we really appreciate your support. Hopefully you gained some information from Jeremy. If you're looking to reach out to Jeremy, feel free. He's the owner of Sales Pride. How can they reach out to you, Jeremy?
You know what? I love what Andy Elliott did. He put his phone number out there, so I'll put my own personal number out there. It's 405-274-2326. That's 405-274-2326. Just send me a text message. I've done some podcasts with Andy Elliott, Jeremy Miner, and I can send you some value that way. And if you guys want to talk about coaching and how I might be able to help you guys get some exponential gains in your company's growth, just reach out. I'll be glad to have a conversation.
We'll see you at the summit.
Thank you, sir.
Hey guys, don't forget to come get nerd mode with us over at Gutter Growth.
Yeah, what's the nerd mode shirt? You were going to talk about
you know what?
I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you about it when we get off here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
All right. See you guys.
Later.
All right, see you.